Hi, I'm Dawn Montefusco, Transformational Writing Coach, and this is the healing power of words. Create with passion and write powerful stories that have impact. And today we have a very special guest, one of my favorite people and authors, Janet Connor. Janet is a prayer artist, deep soul explorer, field guide in the mystic, and devoted daughter of the divine feminine and the ancient memory of original prayer. Her first book, Writing Down Your Soul, became a bestseller, opening a path to the lotus and the lily, soul vows, finding your soul's purpose, and more. When prayer artists came calling in 2018, and I remember that, Janet found herself writing a whole new genre of prayer, redefining prayer altogether and leading radical prayer intensives. She's the host of Praying at the Speed of Love, sharing intimate conversations with authors about their prayer lives. And to make this possible, Janet lives a life filled with silence, solitude, and joy in the tiny town of Azona, Florida, on the Gulf of Mexico. Awesome. Hi, Janet.
Oh, it's always so much fun. You and I have the best time
We really do.
talking about what we love, which is the sacred writing life.
Oh, you're so true. So before we get into it, because I'm so excited, what are you working on right now? What projects do you want us to know about?
Well, and you see, the construct of that sentence is like, that doesn't work because Janet doesn't sit down and say, all right, what I want to do next, what I want to write next. I've learned that the universe, the divine feminine, is not interested in, and I've also learned that it's so much easier to just completely get out of the way and allow things to come through. So that prayer artist thing, awakened in the middle of the night, February of 2018,
I
I
remember.
knew this is a big deal. I knew on some level everything's about to change, but here I am 2.5 years later, and whoa, Nelly, have things ever changed? And it has something to do with this quarantine.
Oh, yes,
Now,
yes,
right? I mean, this
yes.
is, writers are not complaining.
No. Virtual high five on that one right now. Here we go. Give me a high five. Yes. Oh,
Now, my one of my sisters, who's a very high extrovert, she posted the funniest thing on Facebook, and she said, "Okay, all you introverts, your extrovert friends are not okay."
yeah.
And I got the message, and I called her, and the poor thing was suffering. Leave me in my house with enough journals, enough pens, books that I adore, the opportunity to sit outside and listen to the
Oh,
birds. You have no idea
it's
what's
a
going to be
dream.
given to you.
It's a dream, honestly. I've been like, I actually thought, I wrote it down. I thought, did I create this? Because I really wanted this to some degree,
But when we are available, and basically right now,
Yes,
everybody on the planet, if they're willing to stay inside,
yes.
is making themselves available. So what happened to me, to answer your question, it always takes me a
I
while to
love us.
figure.
We always loop. We do the awesome loop. I love it. I
Well,
love it.
but my plans, my intellectual plans for this time period were to be in New York when my son graduated from law school, and then
Oh
to
my
rent
gosh.
a car and travel north of the city. I
You're
have a very
killing me. I was supposed to do the same thing. I was supposed to go see my mother for the first time in a while, and we were going to travel up to Vermont and back, and like, no, 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 that happened.
it's not happening. And I just accepted that. It
Totally.
turned out to be, this is a gift straight from the goddess, that this butt is in this chair in this house for March, April, May, June, and I think probably really for the bulk of the rest of the
I
year.
agree with you. Yeah.
And I am so grateful.
Me too.
I am so grateful because these seeds, they started coming, and these ideas and
Yes, the
words,
seeds.
and then pow, I remember it was my son's birthday, and I'm sitting outside Deep Soul Writing on April 26th, and I couldn't come in. I sat outside for, I bet it was almost 4.5 or 5 hours. in that time period, I received, to finally answer your question, what I'm working on. And it is original prayer. And it's very clear to me that there are 5 original prayers. And I am to teach these 5 prayer intensives on these 5 original prayers.
Love this.
And the 5 prayers, this is the shocker for me, are in the body. Your leg is one, your arm is one, your whole body. Yeah. I mean, this is big, deep. I
Yeah.
am having the time of my life. And so I immediately, because I am obedient, started offering these prayer intensives. We had one on the rosary, the ancient goddess rosary, which has nothing to do with Christianity
Oh
whatsoever.
yeah.
Nothing.
No.
Which I was raised Catholic, so this is a
Oh,
surprise.
me too. But because of some of your work, I've learned this too. Your sacred goddess work and the feminine work around the scripture and around,
Oh,
prayer. You've taught quite a bit about this has nothing to do with that anymore. This
it
is
has
different.
nothing. And this is my responsibility. This is my
Mm.
sacred love, is that I am there to reawaken, remember, because it's in
Yes.
us. There's some level of us that remembers the labyrinth, remembers the ancient goddess rosary, remembers the prayer of forgiveness. Even though we're not all Hawaiian, it's still in there. Ho'oponopono, we get that,
Ho'oponopono,
right?
baby.
We get that. And I just finished a prayer intensive with Rabbi Tirza Firestone on the Tree of Life. Oh, and then the 5th one is anointing. Now, this, to finally answer your question in full, I think it's going to be the next book I write. I am being asked, there are people who know something about anointing. There are people that know something about the oils. There's like bits and pieces, but as far as I can tell, I am the person who is seeing this as an ancient, probably the most ancient goddess prayer. Okay, so and my publisher asked me yesterday to relaunch Writing Down Your Soul. So
Which is awesome. And by the way, that is great advice. I could not. So here, I want to say this because I was just talking to my business coach, who's amazing as well. She's in the big conversation like us. You know what I mean? But I said to her, if we take something and we just tweak it just a little for 2020 and relaunch it, everyone needs it now more
now,
than ever. So it's like in terms of things that was with a little tweaking of like an introduction, just the 2020 version, it's needed. We need to get this stuff back out there,
because we probably, isn't this true of all artists? People always say, oh, they were ahead of their time. Van
Mhm.
Gogh couldn't even
Yes,
sell a painting in his lifetime. I mean, the guy was 150, 200 years ahead of himself, right?
way.
Well, the same thing. I reread Writing Down Your Soul or Soul Vows, and I wonder who wrote, I mean,
Wrote
this is
it. Yeah.
who wrote this? And what could be, for those of us now, if you're going to stay home and make yourself available,
Mhm.
what one tool more than any other creates a space for you to find who you really are and why you're here and to fall in love with life?
I wrote that down. Make yourself
Writing down yourself.
available.
Make yourself available.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a responsibility to make yourself
Mhm,
right during this time. If you can make yourself available, which is what the timing is wanting,
mhm.
you would get in there to discover. So let me ask you this question. So before we can write words that heal others, the idea of the healing power of words, which goes both ways, right? How, you mentioned that you have to be a good reader. Tell us
Mhm.
more about why it's important to be a good reader in order to really, really tap into words that can heal others.
Well, let's look at all other artists. Don't painters love other people's work and painting, and they get together and they study from one
Yes.
another and they're inspired? Look at musicians.
Yes.
No musician is alone in their back bedroom.
Bing.
They, more than any other art form, they adore one another and they're inspired by one another and they collaborate with one another. Music is a thing. Music is alive. And she comes in and she taps on not just the box and the famous, but on a pop star writing a song today. musicians understand that it's about the music. It's not what are the songs that I, Joe Blow,
Right.
am writing. Well, writers somehow often miss this
Mm,
community.
agreed. Agreed.
We are the people who love sentences.
Yes.
And I was a great reader
Mm.
ages before
Mm-hmm.
I
Yes.
became a writer.
Bingo. Right there. You mentioned, we were talking about it, about falling in love with a sentence. Tell us more about that. That is just genius.
Well, this is your artistry, right? I mean, I'm not going to have the quote correctly, but Paul Klee, I think it's quoted in John O'Donohue's Beauty. And of course, he says it in this very beautiful, elegant way. But he says, I am in love with color. Color and I are one. That is an example of your reading. So there I am reading John O'Donohue. Who wouldn't want to read John O'Donohue? And this sentence that he quotes from Paul Klee, I think it's pronounced Clay or Klee, leaps. I mean, it leaps off the page. And that's how you know it's a sentence that's meant for you.
Yes.
Somebody else could read that and go, yeah, well, whatever. But that sentence was waiting for me.
Yes.
And so you feel it in your body.
Yes.
That sentence, because it's alive, lifts off the page.
Exactly.
I can almost see it coming.
Yes.
It lands on your heart,
Totally.
not your brain. Your brain doesn't know shit.
No.
It lands on your heart, and your whole torso opens to like let it in. Now you stop. I mean, I just naturally do. How could you keep reading?
Oh, I
Right?
look at that. I go, holy moly, where'd that come from?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I learned later. So this is how I read. I'm reading, and a sentence, and I'm very fussy about what I read. All right. If I'm like 5 minutes into a book and the rhythm isn't, words, sentences, they're like a river. You know, they have a rhythm. And
I think the rhythm comes when you let go, right? Like you let go and it just starts to flow.
but then there are people with different rhythms,
Right,
right?
right, right. Yeah, yeah.
So if I cannot get in the river, the boat with that writer, I do not. This isn't high school. You don't have to finish the bloody book.
Right. I know. I love.
You can throw it across the room. And if I am running into, because I'm primarily interested in spiritual goddess,
Mhm.
if I run into some, they call it spiritual, but everybody's finally acknowledging spiritual bypass.
Finally, I know.
Think your happy thoughts, and you.
Oh my gosh.
I stop reading immediately and throw the book across the room. Or if it's too masculine,
Yes.
it's too intellectual, it's too left brain,
Yes.
I do not subject myself.
Yes.
So I'm careful about what I read. And so there I am, I'm reading something, and I'm like, I can
Like
feel
music. You just said it. Like you're reading, like you're
this is
listening
it.
to music, like you're listening
And
to
so I'm
music.
having a conversation with this man or woman who wrote this book 100 years ago or yesterday,
Mhm.
right? But we're in a conversation. We're singing to one another. It's music,
Yeah.
right? And so now, and then it's like the chorus. It's like this fabulous lyric comes, and I have to stop, let that sentence in, and now it's a seed inside of me. I
Mm.
do not intellectually know why, but somehow it's cooking inside of me,
Mm.
and it'll come back out in an expression, a
Mhm.
river, a sentence that's mine.
Absolutely.
But I know I can, oh, that's connected to
Absolutely.
this and this and this and this and this.
I taught at a retreat, unfortunately, because of the pandemic was not so bad for introverts, but I was supposed to teach it again. But I wound up taking a workshop while I was there teaching, and it was called Song Theft. It was a singer songwriter class, and this amazing top notch. I mean, if you ever come to Portland, you got to see him. His name is Robert Jackson. He was teaching it, and he says, "So this is song theft." He goes, "You don't actually steal from other artists." So he explained, he said, "You hear this little riff in this one song?" He goes, "Yeah." So I couldn't get that little riff out of my head. He goes, "So I went to he plays like every instrument." He's like, "So I went to my clarinet and I added my own thing on top of that." He's like, and then I thought, ooh, what if I add these words? And it became his complete original song. And so I thought, oh, that's kind of like word theft. Like when I hear a sentence and it's got a certain groove, or a story that's got the way they're writing it is a certain groove, I might go, ooh, I like that groove, but then I'm going to write my own words, along that inspiration from that groove. So reading is so important in
Uh,
order to write.
Ray Bradbury was just sort of prolific, right? He
Yes.
has a book about writing called The Zen and the Art of Writing, or
Yes.
right? In it, he has basically two messages. Number one is write every day. Just write every day.
Yeah.
But his second one is, before you write every day, read poetry. He's very specific.
Oh, yeah.
Read poetry every single day.
Yes.
Now, poetry it's song lyrics, it's music, it's
Absolutely.
right, and it's
Absolutely.
condensed. You want to find words that just
Absolutely.
and they bypass your intellectual, like
Yes.
read haiku. There
Yeah.
goes any ability to, like, what, because it's sort of like, who's that famous painter that throws the paint on the
Oh, I forgot
wall?
it. Pollock, right?
Yeah, boom, right.
Yeah.
Well, kind of like that. And there's things happening in the synapses between those words that you don't intellectually understand. You're not supposed to intellectually stand. You don't want to intellectually understand, because
Absolutely.
then it's too small.
Totally.
So read poetry,
Hmm.
read mystical poetry. And the
Yes.
most fabulous thing is happening right now, thanks to everybody finally having a conversation about racism,
Yes.
is there are all these magnificent Black poets that people are finally listening to.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about the music of language and
Oh
the
my gosh.
power
It's
of
and
words.
rhythm. Talk about rhythm.
Yeah.
Like it blows me away. Yeah, just totally. It's really just interesting. I just posted on Facebook. There's an interview with Morgan Freeman, and I forget the other guy, some famous NBC newscaster, and he says there's no White History Month, and the guy goes, "Well, no," and he says, "Well, I'm Jewish," and he goes, "Well, there's no Jewish History Month," and the guy goes, "No," he goes, "I don't want a Black History Month. We're Americans." He goes, he goes, "I don't say I'm hanging out with this white guy named Mick. I just say I'm hanging out with Mick, And
Yeah.
so I love that we're really understanding that we are together in the flow of life. There's no disconnection, which will allow all of our creativity and all of our magic to finally combine and move into that realm, and that realm is healing. And tell us more about words and prayer, because like the healing power of words, and your writing of prayer is very poetic. It's very poetic. It doesn't just heal the person who's reading it. I'm guessing you have your own healing that happens just from the experience of writing it or reading your own work out loud.
Reading my own work, I'm going to open something and give you
Yeah.
a quick. This just happened
Cool.
during the pandemic, when June 3rd. June 3rd. I was awakened in the middle of the night. Now, when you're really good at making yourself available during the day, in deep soul writing, in meditation, in silence, in staring off in space, in reading in this sacred way, when you're good at making yourself available, the divine, the goddess, she realizes, you know what? Janet's sleeping right now. She's really available.
Yes.
Right? Those liminal spaces as you're falling
Yes.
asleep and waking up, and in the middle of the night. I'm 72. Guess what? I wake up twice at least in the middle of the night to go pee.
Yeah, me too.
This, this is reality. Now, instead of being annoyed about it, I am in this liminal space multiple times.
Yeah,
And so I sleep with a yellow pad of paper
that's right.
because things come. And the number one mistake you can make is to say, well, that is a great phrase. That's a great sentence. That's a great idea. I'll remember that. You will not remember
Nope.
it because it's not up here in your left brain. It's like it's floating out in space.
It is,
So
yeah.
I learned,
Catch it. You got to catch it.
catch it, catch it, catch it, catch it. I'll show you a little example of what it looks like. This was last night.
No fun.
So you see
Yeah,
that?
'cause
It's tiny. I swear I'm writing really big. I'm not. But in the morning, I'll look down and go, and I'll realize that if I hadn't written it down, I wouldn't have remembered. But because I've written it down, even though it's hard to read, oh, well, here's what happened on June 3rd. And it was because of George Floyd. Now, the last thing he said was, I can't breathe, right? Here's the prayer that came through. And as I read it now, I'm here, every time I read it, I'm hearing it differently.
Yes,
Here's the prayer.
absolutely.
Sometimes it's me, sometimes it's the God is talking to me.
Yes.
So it's not too long. It's called Breathe, a prayer to make love visible.
Wow.
May you find strength. May you feel courage. May your skin crackle with the kiss of a blessing wind. Before you, hope. Behind you, sorrow. Beside you, sacred companions in this life and all lives. Above you, moonlight. Below you, earth dark. And in your womb, the seed of our one mother. May your hands caress and be caressed. May your feet dance once more, a dance of joy. And always and forever, may your prayers rise in the smoke, and may you breathe. One breath for yourself. So let's do that. Let's take one breath for ourselves. One breath for another. And the last breath for life herself.
It just feels
So
good.
it was, so it is, so it ever shall be. World without end, life without end, love without end, in truth.
That's
Now,
beautiful.
I wrote it down in the middle of the night.
Wow.
Did not realize it was called Breathe. Did not connect it intellectually to George's
Right.
murder. But the next day, I was on Zoom just like this with my friend Emma Cooper Mitchell. We were planning something. And I said, this came through last night, and I haven't gotten a prayer for a while. And I read it to her. As I was reading it to her, we're looking at one another, just like you and I are looking at one another. Both of our eyes opened at the same moment. And in that moment, we both realized this, the name of it is Breathe. And I am to do a prayer vigil every Friday on Facebook. And this is the prayer.
Wow.
Right. So now try to explain that in a writing class.
Yeah.
This is how you get. I really think it's just this simple. Love sentences. Love
Yes.
them with your whole heart and make yourself available. And then the sentences that want to be expressed in and through and as you, like that line, this is pretty simple. May you find strength, may you find courage before you, hope behind you. But even in the night, and I remember writing it, the pad was on my chest.
Yes.
I'm in the dark and I'm
Yes.
writing. You don't sit up, you don't turn on the light. I'm just writing. But that third line, may your skin crackle with the
Yes.
of a blessing wind. Like that's a poetic
That
line.
got me. When you like, I literally, if we were to watch this when we're done with it, you will see that I went, oh,
It's a
like it
line.
really got me. Yeah, for sure.
Janet didn't write that. Janet did not go, now, what should be the best third line? Nor did Janet realize that this is all in threes, that
Yes.
they're stanzas, and that they're each three long. It's only when I said it to Emma, and then when I typed it up, I went, oh,
Wow.
right. So this is this new genre of prayers that write themselves.
Yes. I believe when you make yourself available, I know that when you allow yourself to fall in love with sentences, figure out where your love is going. What do you love? Don't worry about what other people love to read. Do what you love. Make yourself available and then let it come back out, and allow that.
Mm-hmm.
that there is a channeling that all good writers do. I mean, there's no doubt. Like, I mean, every single writer that I've ever interviewed or met, when they all say the same thing, like, yeah, I found this thing that I wrote, and I didn't even think it was me. I thought it was someone else. I mean, how many hundreds of times has a writer said that? And and when we let go of having to hold on so tight, to perfection, and just and let the natural, I would say, your natural prayers
Right.
speak out of you, in the form of words, and whether those words are poetry or whether you want to talk about a story or tell a story, to just really tap into that idea of that prayer is is a big word. Prayer is a big word. There's so much, and prayer artist is like a genius combination. And
Which
I
Janet did not, under any, I could not have come up with that because I Googled it later.
Yeah, I
Um,
remember this. We were
I
on
Googled
the
it
interview in 2018. You had just done it. It was like the day after or something. You're like, and there
and
was nothing there.
none, zero. There's absolutely no. So how could I have said, well, I really feel like I'm moving into being a prayer artist when there is no such thing, right? So there's no book, there's no mentor, there's no nothing. And I think my body knew that because I got real
Yeah,
teary.
oh yeah.
I knew that this is changing everything. It has completely changed everything, and no one could be happier. I loved what I did before.
Mm,
But you don't know, and isn't this a natural writing thing,
mm,
right? That you write one novel, you write one thing, and you're very happy with it. It's thrilling, but then the next book comes calling,
mm.
and you move forward. Haven't you heard everybody when they're asked, of all the books, like let's say this is some famous author,
Yeah.
Sue Kid, and she's got a dozen books. The stupid interviewer will invariably say, well, which of your books is your favorite? And the answer is always the next one.
Yes.
It's always, it's always. And does a musician say, oh, that song I wrote in 1969, that's my favorite? Never, because it's a living, breathing, moving. I love the books I have written. I love them, and people love them. But now I'm madly in love with the books that want to be written.
Yes, yes, yes,
So
yes.
there's something coming on anointing. It just happened 48 hours ago. This is like brand new. Once again, between deep soul writing and being awakened in the middle of the night, the next intensive that I am to lead, and I know it's a book, is called The Goddess in the Mirror,
Ooh.
a radical love practice.
Oh, hell yeah, girl.
This, yeah, this is healing. Finally, women. It's for women. The
Oh,
goddess in the
totally.
mirror. So, you know,
Spot
I'm
on.
madly in love with where I'm going. It doesn't mean I don't love what I've done.
Right, right.
I love writing down your soul. I love soul baths. I love all these books. But the goddess isn't finished with me.
No.
She wants anointing. She wants the 5 original prayers. She wants the goddess in the
Absolutely.
mirror. She keeps me very busy. And my job is only to say yes. My job is to love
That's
sentences
it.
and make myself available.
That's it. I
And then
love it.
do it. And then do
Well,
it. Put
that
one
I
foot in the
think is
other.
what I want to leave the reader, the audience with. So fall in love with sentences, make yourself available, and then I think it's right. Just write it
Then
down.
put a pen in your
Yeah,
hand.
every day. Play your instrument every day. I'll never forget that. And you'll see in some other. She said, play me." It doesn't say like "play me every day."
Here it is. I
Yeah,
write it on every
yeah.
single
I have it.
journal.
Yeah. Play this
Play
every day, just like
this
a musician.
every day.
That's
But
the
I'm asking the divine feminine to play this instrument, which is Janet,
yes. Oh,
right? It's
that's
not
right.
Janet,
That's right.
because we're good at doing that. Okay, as a writer, go write every day. But what if you said to the great writer in the sky,
Oh,
what if
this
you
is
gave her a
beautiful.
name and you said to her, every single day, play me,
Yeah, play me
play
every
this
day.
instrument, play these hands, play this heart, play this mind, play
Yeah,
this sacred
Yes.
being, and then just get out of the way because more is going to come through than you could possibly.
Possibly imagine. I love it. I love it. We could go on for hours, but we have to wrap up. I love you. You have still my favorite gift for the audience. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
It's a teaching video, the 7 steps to get into theta. Because when you're making yourself available, if you could look inside your head with those
Yeah.
thingamabobs, you're in the theta brainwave state.
Mhm.
Only creative musicians, artists, writers,
Mhm.
chefs. We're dropping into the theta, and when on those special moments, the mystical theta brainwave state. This is not journaling. It looks like a journal. This is not journaling. This is
Mhm.
deep soul writing. And so it's about 40 minutes long, and there's
Awesome.
7 simple things to do. But you will no longer be journaling in the alpha brainwave state. You will be dropping into deep soul writing in the mystical
Excellent.
brainwave state. And then you just show up every day and you will be flabbergasted.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for being here, Janet. You are such a gift, and it's always a pleasure. And everyone, janetconnor.com. You go find this woman. She's got so much to offer to help you heal, help you learn how to heal others, and help you really tap into those words and get them out. So thank you, Janet. I love you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.